ISMP's Lifetime Achievement Award honors an individual who has had a significant career history of ongoing contributions to patient safety and has had a major impact on safe medication practices. This year, the ISMP Lifetime Achievement Award is being presented to Dr. David Cousins for his ongoing work as a true pioneer in medication safety. Dr. Cousins has tirelessly pursued development of a safe medication policy agenda in the United Kingdom that has since been modeled around the world. As chief pharmacist at the Derbyshire Royal Infirmary, he played a leading role in raising awareness of medication safety issues, and together with Dr. David Upton, wrote a monthly column on medication errors in the journal Hospital Pharmacy Practice. Dr. Cousins served as head of safe medication practice at the former National Patient Safety Agency and then NHS England for 12 years, helping develop the National Reporting and Learning System and issue patient safety alerts. He also was a key author of the Design for Safety publication series, illustrating how good design can help minimize risk to patients arising from labeling and packaging of medicines. Dr. Cousins authored a 2014 patient safety alert requiring every NHS organization in England to appoint a medication safety officer. While working for Healthcare at Home, he designed and implemented a comprehensive safety incident reporting and learning system for the home care setting in 2017. During his retirement, Dr. Cousins has been advising and publishing reports for the patient charity Action Against Medical Accidents. He is a founding member and committee member of the International Medication Safety Network and has won many prestigious awards, including an ISMP Cheers Award in 1999 and 3 Lifetime Achievement Awards from the Royal Pharmaceutical Society, the UK Clinical Pharmacy Association, and the Guild of Hospital Pharmacists.
Well, hello from Derby, England. I'm pleased to join this year's virtual Cheers Award celebrations. This is my first opportunity to wear a jacket and a tie since March. I'm honoured to receive this ISMP Lifetime Achievement Award. Recognition from my peers is particularly pleasing, and I thought I might reflect on my time working to improve safe medication practice in England. So how did I become interested in medication errors? In the 1980s, I was a new chief hospital pharmacist in Derby and developing new services. And medication errors sometimes occurred in the hospital, but I was not informed unless it was a dispensing error. Each healthcare discipline managed their own errors, and it was more to do with disciplining staff than system improvement. There were 2 fatal errors that required me to attend the coroner's court that prompted me to question how we were managing medication errors. The first was a death due to a verbal prescription for an antibiotic for a patient with known allergy. We had poor written procedures for prescribing medicines and no training provided to junior medical staff concerning prescribing. The second was a death due to misselection of a 50 ml soluble insulin syringe infusion instead of the prescribed sodium heparin syringe infusion. We had just introduced a pharmacy IV additive service. Both types of syringes were in the ward refrigerator and they looked identical. This indeed was national policy to label and package medicines in a similar way, which was intended to force users to read the label. We even required some manufacturers to use black print on yellow background labels on a wide range of generic injectables. The coroner at the end of the case suggested that the pharmacy might like to investigate the use of colour and design to prevent further incidents of this type occurring. So my journey began. I started to research or try to research medication error information, but there was very little out there, certainly none in the UK. And then I came across publications by Mike Cohen and Neil Davis in the USA Hospital Pharmacy Journal, providing case studies and guidance. This was a revelation to me. I was fortunate soon after to meet Mike at ASHP meetings, and I've got to say he's been my role model ever since. So in the 1990s, after kind of getting this information together, I was able to set up a multidisciplinary committee in the hospital in 1991 to share and review and act on medication errors that were occurring in the hospital and trying to focus on minimizing the risk rather than just disciplining the staff involved. Interestingly, 1991 was the same year that ISMP was set up. Some of the errors that we reviewed have been published by Mike Cohen, and talking to some of the other chief pharmacists in the NHS hospitals, they too had seen some of these errors, although they hadn't been published in the UK. Together with the chief pharmacist in the other Derby hospital, David Upton, we started publishing anonymised medication error reports in the UK Hospital Pharmacy Practice Journal, using our own reports and those from newspaper cutting service that we subscribed to. We quickly identified high-risk, high-alert medicines such as potassium chloride, methotrexate, warfarin, opioids, wrong route errors associated with the universal use of IV lure connectors, and lookalike labeling in packaging. This is the first time that these risks were really being talked about in pharmacy journals in the UK. The monthly column became very popular, and although I soon realized there was a difference in readers knowing about a risk and their organizations actually implementing controls to minimize these risks. However, some NHS senior managers and pharmacy leaders approached me and they said they took a dim view of publishing details of medication errors as it undermined the reputation of the NHS and the pharmacy profession. In 1999, at the mid-year meeting in Orlando, Mike Cohen was not able to join the ISMP breakfast meeting for the international colleagues that he put on every year. His good excuse was that he was in the White House Rose Garden with President Clinton, publicizing the new book from the Institute of Medicine called To Err is Human. And we watched him on TV. And he was able to join us a little while later. The publication, An Organisation with a Memory, authored by Sir Liam Donaldson, the Chief Medical Officer in England, was published in 2000. And both publications highlighted the frequency of medical error and the need for greater openness and learning about errors. The NPSA in England, that is the National Patient Safety Agency, was set up in 2001 to establish the National Reporting and Learning System and issue patient safety alerts. I joined in September 2002 as head of safe medication practice, and I was pleased to write the first ever patient safety alert concerning potassium chloride concentrate injection. The NPSA was a quango. This is a quasi-autonomous, non-governmental organization, sometimes called an arm's length body. I often said that perhaps the arms were very short because there was always political and media scrutiny of this agency. It was sometimes regarded as the bad news agency, as we had to describe risks before we could describe safer practice. The media always gave greater attention to the risk than the safer practice we wished to promote. And getting things published was always difficult because you had to get a lot of sign-offs, not just within the NPSA, but within the Department of Health. Getting things done between 2000 and 2010 were the glory days. We were actually able to issue many patient safety alerts, observatory reports about incidents reported via the NRLS, and design guides. Many lookalike medicine products, usually from the same manufacturer, were responsible for medication errors, but the medicine regulator was not able to enforce design to minimize misselection and misuse of products within a manufacturer's range. And so we were able to work with the Royal College of Art and other design institutes to develop booklets illustrating safer design features for medicines labeling and design. And working with the NHS procurement groups to award national and regional contracts on safer design, we were able to convince the manufacturers that it was in their interest to actually change their habit of having house style and actually differentiate their products and their doses. In fact, the UK became the toughest market for labelling and packaging of medicines in Europe, according to many of the manufacturers I talked to, and that we really had focused on minimising lookalike errors and miscommunication errors over dose and strength from labelling and packaging. We also were successful in introducing medical devices with non-Lure connectors, and this was many years before the international ISO standards for small bore connectors. So we had unique connectors for intrathecal and other, and also oral medicines, liquid medicines. And this was the time that we continued to link with ISMP in the USA and internationally, and other patient safety organizations dealing with medication errors. And we formed the International Medication Safety Network in 2006. And I was able to work very closely with people like David Yu and Etienne and Marie Jose and Mario, and a lot of people from around the world that were working on similar problems to the ones that we had in England. Well, we had some pushback to many of the MPSA initiatives, and I want to just focus on this because it's interesting. We were out to minimize these risks, but we had comments about too much transparency. Legal staff, particularly in the health service, were unhappy. They wanted the information about incidents to be released after coroner's court hearings, and this could be months or even years after the incident. And we said to them that this gave the NHS no opportunity to improve their systems because an incident had occurred. We also found that the PSA guidance, the patient safety alert guidance, was often criticised because it cost additional money to have safer systems. And many NHS managers said, could you write the guidance on the back of a cheque and fund everything that's necessary centrally? And another pushback was, well, we've not had the same problem here, or we've had the same problem, but the solution that you're promoting was not invented here. And so there was pushback against a top-down approach, and people saying, well, we would like a bottom-up approach. We want to develop our own solutions to these problems, which is fine if you have enough capacity to do so. But we often found that the people said, who wanted the bottom-up approach often didn't actually get around to doing anything. And there was also interesting interpretation of data protection law that not only did we exclude information about patients' names and healthcare staff names and hospital names, etc., but some of the interpretation was, well, you can't even describe the incident. It could be tracked back, I don't know how, to the individual hospital, and so no incident descriptions can be given. I think this is really an extreme interpretation of data protection laws. Well, in 2010, a new coalition government was brought into the UK, and it had a wish to abolish all quangos, including the MPSA, and they wanted less top-down guidance, a more bottom-up approach. And so in 2012, the MPSA was abolished, and a very small number of staff and the National Reporting and Learning System transferred to the NHS England, an organisation that actually managed the NHS and much, much closer to government. So it was hardly surprising that, in fact, very few publications came out at this time, very few patient safety alerts, very little learning. And in fact, around this time, looking around the world, standalone patient safety organisations were far less popular internationally. And we started to look at the opportunities that a redefining of the pharmacovigilance definition of adverse events and adverse drug reactions including now for the first time medication errors. And so we thought there was an opportunity to work much more closely with pharmacovigilance, although I have to say that the definition of an adverse event, an adverse drug reaction, still does not include errors of omission. And the number one error that we found reported to the MPSA was omitted and delayed dose. So those could not be handled by pharmacovigilance. In 2014, with this closer collaboration with pharmacovigilance, it was possible to work with my medical regulators, the MHRA, and we issued a patient safety alert, my last, advocating the importance of having medication safety officers and medical device safety officers in every NHS organisation. So I retired from the NHS in 2014 after nearly 40 years of service, and I joined Healthcare at Home, a home care company, to develop a new patient safety incident reporting system that recognised that one incident could be classified by one or more reporting category. It could be a patient safety incident, as well as an adverse event, as well as identifying a faulty product. It might also include some safeguarding issues relating to vulnerable patients and some data protection issues. And all this needed to be managed internally and reported to one or more external organizations. And so this is the first time where a fully comprehensive reporting system had been developed for the home care sector in the UK. And interestingly, analysing the incidents, again, the number one patient safety issue for medicines was omitted and delayed doses of important medicines for chronic conditions due to late prescriptions from the NHS. And so, full circle, for the last few years, I have been advising a UK charity called Actions Against Medical Accidents. And in 2020, I was able to publish with this organisation a report called An Organisation Losing Its Memory. So in England in 2020, it is no longer possible to read published details of individual incident reports. The National Reporting and Learning Service reports the total number of incidents by category. So you can find out the total number of medication incidents that has been reported and their clinical outcome, but no other detail is published. So no understanding of what is causing the harm other than it's a medication incident. And the number of published patient safety alerts has reduced dramatically and only focus on new and unknown risks. So there's no information about incident reports received involving previously published risks and no updated guidance on those risks. And the previous MPSA alerts have been archived. So these risks concerning opioids and anticoagulants and ones that even potassium, we really don't know anything about because that information is no longer available. The main thrust from NHS Improvement, which is the organisation that takes patient safety forward now, is a national curriculum to teach every member of the NHS patient safety science to promote individualised local actions to risks. But it doesn't take on board that there's always going to be limited local capacity to develop patient safety improvements, and it may lead to duplication of effort, and there are concerns over postcode patient safety. So in conclusion, the work of ISMP, the International Medication Safety Network, national centres for patient safety involving medicines, continues to be vitally important. There have been some significant improvements in reporting medication safe practices over the years, but in recent years there have been some reductions in reporting and learning, and openness and transparency and identified improvements have not always been maintained. I've really enjoyed working on this topic, talking with patients and their families and staff involved in serious medication errors and how systems have been changed from the learning obtained from incidents has been a particularly rewarding activity. This work needs to be continued, and I wish all of you working on this topic every success in the future. And finally, some thank yous. Of course, to my role model, Mike Cohen. I couldn't have done it without you, Mike. To my colleague of many years, David Yu, who now is General Secretary of the International Medication Safety Network. All my colleagues in the other international ISMP centers and other medication safety organizations throughout the world. The medication safety officers in the NHS, the pharmacy staff in Derby, and last of all, but really the most important, the support I've received from my wife and family. I thank you all. It's worthwhile to continue, and as I say, I wish you every success in the future. Thank you.